have Samantha White, director of Friends Online. Very excited to have you here. How are you doing, Sam?
Very excited to be here too. I'm fine. I'm good. I am good. Me and my wall, we're good. We're here.
I'm
We've
in love
attended.
with it. I think it's such a vibe,
I
and
just needed to hear it again. I just needed to hear you compliment it
I'm just
again.
ridiculously jealous. I want that rather than my very, very bleak. I feel like I'm supposed to be doing some sort of emotional thriller at my computer here, but
Yeah.
alas, a nice Q&A with you. So I start all of this off.
Hmm.
I need to know all about you. So tell me, how did you get here? What led you to this moment? What makes you Samantha White? Just tell me everything.
Well, it was a cold morning in 1994. No, so basically, I started off as an actress as a teenager. That was like my thing. I was going to win an Oscar by 22. You can tell me otherwise, you know.
Let me all.
And yeah, exactly. I was such a precocious little shit. Anyway, so I basically started off acting. Liked it, enjoyed it. It was all very kind of one note, though. I was quite I developed early as a young woman, and I kept sort of getting the same parts, which were all very sort of, you know, innocent victim, but sexual, and she can't kind of like, oh, it's the big bad world. And I don't know, it just kind of annoyed me. But then I decided, actually, do you know what? I'd rather create. I'd rather create and make, and my own weird little sense of humor. And I applied to the BFI Film Academy, and we did the first ever screenwriting one, and I'd come up with an idea, and this was it. And it isn't until sort of much later that I realized it's more the whole thing was more of a comment on that treatment, sort of the characterization of young women in media and whatnot. And I don't know, I just sort of love this idea. I mean, it's about loneliness, it's about isolation, it's about, you know, desire versus identity versus, you know, sort of unfortunate situation of reality. And sort of in the last few years especially, I found that this little story kind of meets creepily relatable vibes, especially during the last year or so, which is really interesting considering it was made before. But then so I wrote this, and then I went to go study in Paris just for the hell of it, for a bit of adventure. Why not? Mainly because I was sort of scared that, having been a teenage actress, I wouldn't be taken very seriously. Go being a writer, director, maker, creator. So I decided that, yeah, I'm going to go to Paris. I'm going to learn French. I'm going to work there. I'm going to study there. I'm going to make some films and come back. And I did it. And here we are.
I mean, that is the best story. That is exactly. I mean, I totally relate to the whole actress thing. You know, you start out and you're like, yes, this is my life, and then you get to that stage where you are given the same role. It isn't a role with substance. It isn't a role with anywhere that you, as a human being, can feel like you can thrive in.
Yeah, but I think it was more what made me sort of go, hang on, is more that I was like I said, quite a precocious, very eager, but hardworking sort of young woman. And yet you had a lot of people who didn't know young women very well, but were writing for them. And it's a very interesting perspective. And I mean, that is a certain, I mean, of course, if you're not familiar with a certain type of person, you're obviously going to sort of rely on stereotypes. And I just found that sort of kept perpetuating itself. And so this is kind of a slightly sarky response to that, I suppose. But there's still a lot of like, I tried to inject a lot of love into the characters too, in my own weird way. I mean, if you know the film, I won't spoil anything, but the first, you know, protagonist, there's more to him than just the stereotype that is presented. And sort of by the end of it, you're going, I relate to him. Geez. Ugh. And that's kind of the little venture we go on. So it's, yeah, stereotypes, identities, all that can be very deceiving.
Very deceiving. I mean, obviously, we won't spoil it because everyone shall be watching it. Friends Online, give us a little kind of one liner
Mm.
just in case people aren't aware, which they should be. So I don't know where they've been hiding, but definitely just a little
In
one.
their homes, hopefully.
I feel like actually we are living under a rock currently, so fair if you haven't seen it or heard about it. But sidestepping, give us a little quick synopsis, teeny tiny breakdown without giving us everything.
So Friends Online is all about Stacy, who is a hopeless, rather, yeah, he's a hopeless online keyboard warrior. And he's trying to convince his young friend Ellie that he is also a teenage girl, so she'll give him the pictures that he wants. But he really should ask himself who is online.
Definitely, and I do think that, I mean, if you've ever ventured online, you wonder who are these people that are answering back across the void. And as the film explores, you don't always know.
No.
And it is, and there is a level. I thought when watching it, I was like, oh, I mean, oh, I get it. I hate those kind of people. Oh, and then at the end, I actually did just feel a sort of odd, crazy empathy. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh. And then, after watching, I'm thinking, oh no, now I'm in some sort of existential crisis. How do and I think that is what makes a really good short film, that in just a few minutes, you can tear my whole world apart and then make me question what it means to be alive. And I think
Great.
yeah, thank you slash maybe not thank you, because I did have a bit of a sit down with myself and went, you shouldn't judge people so much.
Well, I mean, it's a slight mockery of the human condition, this need to connect with people, this need to sort of be understood, be loved, be appreciated. And yeah, there is a sort of such a desperate, sad hope in that we'll find it. And I think especially with now, our very online age, the whole film is, also a slight sarcastic make fun of social media and online dating and everything that has now become sort of our only connection to the outside world, funnily enough. So yeah, absolutely.
I love it. And just kind of talking about the process of making
Hmm.
the film, you said obviously you wrote it when you were away in Paris. Um, how did it get into creation from your initial kind of idea to
Hmm.
the lovely film that it is?
Well, it was I had the idea for it slightly before that when I was doing the BFI thing, but yeah, definitely developed it in Paris. And it sounds like a bit of a cheat, but the film was cheap to make and also easy for an English speaker to make a film in France with.
Oh, so you
It's
made it in France,
essentially
wrote it in the UK. I
yes,
like that.
yes.
I knew that.
No,
I knew I got
no,
muddled.
don't worry. It's even I don't know. Where was I? Who am I? No. And so basically, well, I mean, I don't really come from money. I don't have many connections into the industry and whatnot. So I knew if I had to make a short, when I wanted to make a short film, it would have to be on the cheap. So this was essentially also a exercise in I got no money. How could I be creative with that? And it did force. I mean, uh, was it necessity is the mother of all invention or something like that. And it was true. We had, with limited things, it was like, okay, we'll just build uh, a tower of broken old computers. Behind one of them we'll get dirty magazines and let that cover the room in another set. The whole thing is made in one room. But then also yeah, I mean, essentially it's a silent film, right? The characters, their personas speak for you. I voice one of them, and then a friend of mine who I was working in a bar with voices the other. And she suggested herself. I was talking about it, and she was going like, "Oh, I've got quite a ridiculous voice. Why don't you have me?" I'm like, "You are so right. We're having you." And it was great, and we had so much fun doing it. And yeah, so it was, I think everyone who was involved, was able to sort of relate to the stereotype, but then sort of the weird little journey arc of each little person. And it's all just one big, colorful, playful mess that goes very wrong.
Well, it is beautifully weird and crazy and lovely, and everything that's kind of interesting about life is thrust onto these characters and into the kind of scene that it's set in. And so, was the whole set design your idea? Did it just come straight from your imagination?
Yeah, so I mean, it was also, I mean, we drew, I worked with my production designer very closely, and I knew there are certain things that I wanted each character to be color coded. That was important, colorism. thing of mine, but it was there. Hello, but I just visually, like, we've only got sort of 5 characters in about 5 minutes. Let's really make the most of them. So one is disgustingly green, the other one's very blue, the other one's very red. Just it's a visual thing, and then also each of them obviously had to be in their own space. Now this could be anywhere in the world. These are 5 people across the globe. We've no idea who they're. I mean, even my dad asked me the other day, what are their real names? And I said, doesn't matter. They could be. That's kind of the point. That's kind of a little gift to the audience. There's you decide. You know, as far as we know, the horny mum, 7-inch Kevin. That's sort of the fun world that they're in. But then yeah, so I drew pictures about kind of the over the top. I mean, the whole film is kind of like if a cartoon came to life. That's what I use quite a lot when pitching it, just because it's very colorful, it's very over the top, it's very, you know, I mean, the antagonist, shall we say, has got like jars filled with cigarette butts and just tissues everywhere. Like, it's just over the top to give the mood, and we just kept adding to it, like, yeah, and what if he's got porn playing in the background? Yeah, brilliant. And what if the other one? And then, you know, some of it was like, for the young girl, the back of her room, someone had made these fake boy band posters for a previous shoot, and we're like, brilliant, get them. So we just kept adding, but obviously we had to store everything in my apartment in Paris, which was teeny tiny, so you had like literally boxes of magazines and then laptops and stuff. It was great fun, but it was a lot of planning involved, because obviously we wanted to make it as impactful, visual, but also true to the character in any way we could. So yeah, that was the journey of that.
Visually impactful. I mean, I would have hated for anybody to go over to your apartment and seen all that stuff just in your room. You're like, it's
my dad came over to do the catering. That was his, like, I'm gonna that's how I'm gonna support the Sam through this. And so he was sleeping in my bed. I was sleeping on the floor in between the boxes of magazines and the thing whilst doing it. So, and then making food the day. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of it. It was very much your guerrilla filmmaking, and it was great. It was really fun. But yeah, I mean, it was what was lovely was it was truly what I wanted to do and set out to do. It was very little in the way of no one hindered or stopped that sort of creative process, and it yeah, kind of turned out exactly as planned. So I'm a very happy girl.
It's great when that happens, but it just works out. But it is because, you know, your concept is strong. You can't get a finished product that, you know, meets its requirements
But I
unless.
must shout out. No, sorry, I must shout out also. I mean, the whole online website chat thing that you see was completely created in post by my editor, Marta Biancheri. So
Shout out.
without her,
Well, it's always, you know, the sum of the parts in the whole team that helps you, because especially when we're making things for that are on a very shoestring budget,
mm,
it's the people that just go in, yeah, I can help, and that can-do attitude that surrounds you
completely.
is great. And I'm sure you had a brilliant team. Anybody else you'd like to shout out? Do.
All of them were lovely, but I just, if as long as we're talking about that, she was absolutely. I mean, Marta was incredible and still is, and everyone who was involved, I'm extremely happy for. The crew, the cast also were just phenomenal, and I'm so happy that we found them in Paris. All very giving with their energy, time, the works. It was a real labor of love for all of us, but it was great.
So, did you have to kind of direct using your new French language skills, or?
A little bit. It depended on the level of, I mean, most of the actors spoke English fine, and what we tended to do was I would if there was an issue, and we kind of did this in school anyway sometimes, speaking your native language. But so basically, if they speak in French, I'll understand it. I speak in English, they'll understand it. It's just quicker, and you just find that it's less sort of, because I think it's that struggle to articulate yourself. That's the biggest sort of nerves and stuff. My French has improved since I made the film, which is good. But I don't know. We'll see in the future. I've been thinking a lot, like, you know, are we going to make a French film? I don't know, not yet. I'm not quite there, but we're thinking about it.
I love any kind of, you know, foreign language film, so I think do it, because, you know, you will learn. I think it makes you a stronger creator. It makes you a stronger filmmaker because you have to start thinking about what you mean rather than going, kind
Yeah.
of this. You have to be direct. With your kind of directing style, you know, what do you do? What's your process? How do you feel that you go about directing?
It's interesting because obviously coming from an actress background, I had a certain idea of what a director was, and that was contradicted my identity. You know, it's not even necessarily that I thought I couldn't, but it's more I'd never see. I mean, up until recently, this in recent years, I'd never seen a director who looked or acted like me. You know, I'm quite feminine. I'm quite outgoing. I'm quite you know, I want people to like me. That's the kind of, you know, it's a typical feminine traits, and I just not seen that in the industry. So what I've found since, and going through the process of film school and having made 2 short films since, what I've learned in my brief early stages of my career is that those can be assets. Having been an actress, being able to relate to people, being able to get on with people, but also the way you deconstruct a character as an actress, it's as important as a director. I think every director should have a go at acting, just to have a go at lots of different things, just to kind of get that perspective. I guess when I was studying, there was this like, I'm not the camera guy, and they were taken seriously, and they were allowed to, like, you know, run the horse and everything. But it's I don't I bring something else to the table for me in my stories. There's no, and I really do think as long as you are able to articulate your vision and to, yeah, which I'm not doing now, but as long as you are able to articulate your vision, you could direct.
I,
Sorry.
I think that is it. I think, you know, it's exactly that. You know, we often get an idea of what a director is,
Mm,
and it sometimes can be further from the point. Director is there to direct, to use their own experience, their own background, their own perspective to kind of create this film. And of course, there are other people there helping you with things that you may not know. But I think that goes for all types of filmmaking, any role in filmmaking, being a producer. Some producers are better at other things. And it is just
mm.
kind of going with what you are good at and running with it. And I think, you know, your ability to deal with characters is phenomenal. That's what makes this film so amazing to watch. It draws you in because the characters are so multifaceted, and it's such a short film, which is crazy because it's hard. It is hard to do. So I think that's no understatement at all.
Yeah, it's a short, sweet film with a bitter aftertaste. But I think it's interesting. I think when I was sort of coming to it, I'm not going to call myself director in my head, because that's, for me, I won't until I'm paid, like, properly. I don't know why, but there's something, I will be filmmaker, but until I'm paid, I'm not going to call myself the director, because that's like the next goal, right? But I think whilst doing this, it was more, you're a visual storyteller. That let's leave it at that and just do that visually and audibly, tell this story, and we'll get there. And so I think it's definitely, it's getting rid of the, you know, the mist of a director. Oh, very important. Oh, very educated and stylistic and whatnot. So it's more finding a way for you to do it yourself. That's what I'd call it.
Definitely. I mean, that is exactly it. I think anybody that is watching out there who wants to either be a filmmaker or wants to kind of progress along, it is about just finding who you are and what you have to tell and getting it across in the best way that you possibly can. And I think,
And what you've got to offer, like, you know, there's not everyone's had your, yeah, like you were saying earlier, not everyone's had your experiences, your perspective, your joys. I mean, yeah, so it's kind of that, really. Yeah.
so what's next for you, Sam? What are you doing? What are you creating? Where are you going? I mean, obviously lockdown, but aside from that,
Lol, that old thing. No, yeah. So yeah, no, I mean, I basically, both good and bad, obviously. The first was, I, you know, because I graduated, I came back, and then lockdown kicked in. I went, oh shit, brilliant time. But I've written a lot. I've written everything that I wanted to, that I had been putting off. that I had been just not getting around to. And so I've had no excuse, and I've written a fair bit. I finally sat down and finished my TV series, which I'm very excited about, and now starting to show various people, called Piece of Cake. And it is a drama gangster series set in East London in the 1960s that follows a matriarch called Maggie Deeks as she takes over the East End.
Love it. I'm already in. I'm already hooked.
Good.
It's very exciting. How long did it take you to get it kind of written to a point of?
It has taken about a year to do all 8 episodes, but different. Some episodes I love more than others. It's more, again, it's a labor of love of going like, no, that one's fine, I love that one, and then going back going, I don't really can't do it. But then in addition to that, we've done a couple of short film scripts, which also, now that everything's opening up again, trying to get back on the wagon with that, which is A Few Dollars Poor, which is a coming of age comedy. And then Price Tag, which is a very short, probably as short as this short, comment on sexual harassment. So very in the vein of sort of Promising Young Woman, but a lot shorter and a lot more sarcastic, which is apparently my style. So we'll see. It's a case of now taking all those projects and getting to work, and I can't wait.
I think it sounds like a ridiculously exciting few months ahead of you. I think. I mean, it will be because
It will, of course.
But when you're ruminating on all these things and you're thinking about it and you've had all this kind of almost forced time in our little prison cells,
Mm.
you do actually find that you're kind of free to start creating and going through the process, and you have no distractions. You are literally you, your pen or computer, and you're like, okay, now I must write. And I think that's kind of almost maybe the nice side of this whole lockdown, if there can be one.
Yeah, I think, yeah, it's very much a case of I mean, I even did this little challenge for myself where I wrote a short monologue and then went and filmed it, that I've still yet to finish. But it was a case of, okay, what have I got here now and what can I do with that, so it was not pleasant for a lot of sort of, stopping and starting and whatnot, and all the dark thoughts when you're left alone. But now, let's do it, let's kill it, let's get out.
That is the vibe. Kill it, get it done. So just a little kind of thing to round us up. What
Mm-hmm.
are your hopes for your future career or filmmaking in general? What do you want to see more of in the industry out there?
Oof, that's a big one. I want to see more variety of stories from a larger, group of people. I think we have entered a very sort of interesting time. I think there's a lot more awareness of where the perspective is coming from, why, it's not just a case of who but what you've got to say. And I think I think it's super exciting. I think nowadays, I, I really want us to be able to walk onto a set and not be surprised to see a certain person in a certain role, be it gender, race, ability, whatnot. I think that's super important and interesting, and I think we've got so much to come. That's very cool. But I think also, with the various platforms that are, coming about, I think it would be very interesting also. I mean, I think, sort of more streaming services with short films and stuff, that's another different change. I don't know, I just want a lot of it. I'm really excited. I think everyone's very cynical, obviously, with, like, cinemas closing and everything. They'll open back up. People like being in the cinema. I know I do. So, and I know that sounds strange, but it's something that I do quite a lot, especially with comedy or something. It's like, well, I find it funny. Well, I like going to the cinema. Someone else will. Someone else must. So it's. I think there's a lot of hope. I think we've really had to sit down and think what we want out of yet to come, and it's going to get groovy. It's going to get jammy.
That is it. I think it is a really hopeful kind of. I mean, as long as we keep progressing as we are and doing all of that and supporting and giving representation, I think it will be a really colourfully, wonderfully exciting, magical place hopefully in a very near future that we all get to kind of partake in. So
Mm.
I love it, love that. So one last thing,
Yeah, go for
where can people find you if they want to know about all the things coming up? Are you Instagram? Are you Twitter? Are you
it. I can only commit to one. I'm very monogamous in my social media. So I'm on Instagram at Samantha Drama. And it's not just film, but anything, photography, art, whatever I am interested in. I also do best of the decade, which is kind of a little uh, film quiz thing I do. And then also I've started this thing with a friend, which is That Short You Love, where we post a new short kind of every week, every 2 weeks, that just needs a bit of love, needs to be seen. And yeah, so it's everything is on my Instagram if you are desperate to hear from me.
I mean, do everyone go see it, go find out about it. It's really exciting. We want people to support all the filmmakers in this spring edition because you're all fab. We love you all.
We're exposed by exposure.
Amazing. Oh, my
Yes.
and it is exactly that because it is. There is so much talent brimming out there. And yeah, people want to see it. So if you want to see Friends Online, go to Indie Plus, which is actually probably where you're at because you're watching this now. Which well, go watch it. Click the next video. I'm sure it's the next one or one of them. And go support Samantha White. Thank you, and goodbye, Samantha.